Hello, everyone. Welcome. I am Suzi Lula, and this is my free masterclass, part of the emotional messenger system and emotional self-care, and it's called Learning the Language of Self-Compassion. And I'm just thrilled to be here teaching this class. It's one of the things that is nearest and dearest to my hearts to teach, because I know that what we all want more than anything else is to be deeply connected to each other, to feel that we belong, to feel that we are seen, to feel that our life is valuable and important. And in working with clients all day, what I find is that rarely does a day go by that some kind of emotional explosion, emotional eruption, or emotional storm doesn't happen with either within your own being or between you and your children, your spouse, co-workers, friendships. And rarely are we taught how to resolve these conflicts within our own self, much less with each other. So today we're going to be talking about this world of emotions and the swirl of emotions and how they can so easily in a moment take us down into a storm, into a spiral of shame and self-judgment. And I'm going to be teaching us tools and transformational technologies that will assist you to reconnect with yourself, to find the peace in your own storm, to find the language of self-compassion and connection that will assist you to learn not only to transform any outer conflicts, but to absolutely learn how to find a place of inner peace, of inner calm, of serenity, of centeredness, of anchoredness, of groundedness, so that you can stay calm, find your calm, and then reconnect with anyone and everyone around you. So welcome, welcome. So wonderful to have you all. We're going to just dive in, dive deep. If you have a journal, you're welcome to open it and take notes. I wanted to give you all a little bit of an overview of what we're going to do today. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our emotional life, and I'm also going to show you all some slides that might give you a visual description of the way that our emotions work and how in an instant we can find ourselves, as I was saying, in emotional upset, in our own emotional current and storm. And then I'm going to share with you all a little bit from my book. I'm a new author. I just wrote a book called The Motherhood Evolution: How Thriving Mothers Raise Thriving Children. And whether you're a parent or not, the principles are the same. We find in a day many, many opportunities to reconnect with ourselves, to center ourselves. And I'm going to read a little bit that will provide some practices and principles. And then I'm going to take us through a guided meditation, a guided process, because in every class that I ever teach, every session I ever do, I believe that the experiential component is the component for transformation. So I know that many, many of us have been on a spiritual path, a path of growth and consciousness for a long time. And we know a lot. We talk about principles. My passion is to provide you with an experiential practice, because it is the experience in our bodies that allows us to then take different actions in our life, and those actions then transform our lives. So I'm going to be taking you through a guided process, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about a class that I'm getting ready to teach, a 4-week class called Learning the Language of Self-Compassion, where we will take a deep dive. Today, we'll cover the tip of the iceberg. And in this 4-week class, though, we will dive deep into more of the core emotions and then more of the, infinite practices that I can teach you around learning the language not only of self-compassion, but of compassion and connection with your children and all those around you. This is something that we are just not taught. Imagine if, when you were a child and you were upset, your parents knew how to comfort you. Imagine when you were a child and you made a mistake and you made poor choices and you were upset about these choices. Maybe you felt lost. Maybe you felt conflicted. Maybe you were bullied. Maybe you were abused. Maybe you were traumatized as a child. Imagine if your parents had known how to provide for you a language of compassion, a language that connected you, not only to your own self, but to their hearts. Imagine when they were upset, if they had the tools of self-compassion so that then they didn't take their anger, they didn't take their unresolved issues, their unlived dreams out on you. So this is the language that we have not been taught. It's very undervalued, underutilized in our culture. And I'm, on a mission to teach this language so that this becomes our first language, the language of connection, the language of compassion. So welcome, welcome everyone. Let's just take a nice deep breath in and exhale. You might want to gently close your eyes for a moment. We're going to set an intention for our time together. So you first and foremost want to appreciate yourself. Acknowledge yourself for investing your time, for choosing your time. We're all busy. We all have a lot on our plates. You are choosing to invest this time on your own heart, your own emotions, your own life, your own compassion, so that your life becomes enriched, richer, vibrant, full of well-being, inspired. So you first want to appreciate yourself. And then imagine you're complete with this class. You're moving back into your day. Ask yourself, what would I most want to receive from this class? What am I so grateful for that I received? What is of value that I received as I move back into my day? And then you can form it into a sentence. My intention for this class is, and if you have a journal, you can write your intention in the journal. What is my intention? My intention for this class is. And then whenever you're ready, gently open your eyes. So I want to begin by showing you a few pictures. And these pictures represent a healthy relationship and then what happens to us when we become triggered. When I want you to be thinking of your own examples throughout this class. So it could be something as simple as you are exhausted at the end of the day and your child just will not fall asleep at night, or you have a really important project that you're working on and the individuals around you are just very negative and don't seem to be as optimistic and see the possibilities. Anything that can happen in a day where you feel triggered, where you feel upset. You want to be thinking about the simplest things. It could be something deep. Some of you I know are going through some deeper things in life. Maybe your partner has left you and you're feeling very betrayed, very abandoned. You can start with something simple, or you can start with whatever it is that is real and authentic in your own life, so that you get a lot out of this class, because I want this class to really assist you in whatever you're truly going through in your life. So call to mind some way that you felt triggered in the last couple of days. Maybe you asked your child to put a toy down, and instead of putting the toy down, they threw the toy across the room. These emotions that come flooding up, these are the feelings that I want you to be in touch with right now. What happens when you've asked your teenager to please turn off their phone, and you've asked them 3 times and they're still on their phone? What happens inside of you when you've asked your spouse, please, would you mind, cleaning up after yourself and not leaving a mess in the kitchen? And you've asked this many times. Whatever it is that can tend to irritate you, frustrate you, have you feeling impatient, have you feeling sad or confused, hopeless, frustrated, any of these feelings. So I'm going to start here by sharing the screen, where you will see a healthy relationship, this drawing of a healthy relationship. So when we're in healthy relationships, you can see 2 complete individuals, 2 whole individuals coming together. This is just a description of what a healthy relationship can look like. When one or both of us become triggered and emotions are running high, then what can happen are a few different things. One of the things that happens is what we call enmeshment. So you can see here that those 2 circles that were so easy to see in this previous screen, these 2 distinct whole individuals, let's call them, that are so easy to see with a little bit of interaction between them where their lives come together. Here, when we're triggered, we can't even see where one circle begins and another circle ends. This is what we would call drama. This is what we would call conflict. This is what we would call enmeshment. When you can't even begin to see where your boundary ends and the other person begins, it just comes together in a swirl, in a moment of conflict. And all you have, you can see this dark line that I have drawn around here. This is protection. This is when we feel unsafe and we feel like we need to protect ourselves. We call it our survival self comes out. And we end up losing sight of who we are individually, and we end up losing sight of our own self-anchoredness, our own individual calm, our own groundedness. It goes out of the window, and we end up enmeshed with this other individual or this circumstance that we might find ourselves in. Or what some people do is completely detach. So here you see now there is no connection between the 2 individuals, and there is here again a lot of protection from our survival self. So I'm going to go back and show you the healthy relationship. So the healthy relationship is very clear. It shows 2 complete whole individuals, and you can see the place in the center where we come together. When we're in conflict, we either end up enmeshing with the other individual, or we end up detaching ourselves, disconnecting from each other. And you can see here a lot of protection. We feel unsafe. Our survival self comes out. Now, I want us today to be aware of the ways that we usually react when we are triggered. And today I'm going to begin to show us some alternatives. So let's say you become triggered. Your child will not brush their teeth. Your coworker isn't working and you are taking up all the slack. Your project just isn't coming to fruition, whatever it may be. and you find yourself, let's say, in survival mode like this. You feel that sense of protection. You feel that you don't feel safe. You feel that you feel unsafe. Here's what we're going to be talking about today. When we begin to simply turn within and take personal responsibility, that sounds like, oh, I am triggered. Why do we know that I am triggered? Because I feel the energy inside of myself. So I might still feel these feelings. I might still be experiencing very intense emotions. However, what I can do by simply becoming introspective, by simply saying, I am aware that this energy, even though it was provoked by an outside individual, by an outside situation and circumstance, even though there was an outside situation that provoked it, that evoked it, still and all, there is a level of discomfort within myself. There is a level of triggered energy within me. When I can simply, step one, take this personal responsibility, then look what it allows. It allows me to take a step back right here, take a step back. This is what we call taking a pause, taking a deep breath, saying to the other individual, I am so triggered right now. I need to take a step back. I need a moment. I just need to take 3 deep breaths. When we do this, what happens is we may still feel those intense feelings, but look, I can remain whole. I can remain centered in my own body. I can remain centered in my own experience. I can remain grounded within my own being. I don't need to disconnect and abandon the other individual, and I don't need to enmesh with this other individual. I can stay connected. I can ask for a moment, I can stay connected. I can remain whole and centered within myself, and I can see that this other individual is still whole and complete within themselves. I might not like what they're doing. I might not agree with what they're doing. But the first step in remaining calm in your own emotional storm, and the first step in learning the language of self-compassion, is to learn to practice and recognize that I can still stay whole and keep my own sense that I am an individual and grounded in my own heart, in my own centeredness, in my own being, even and especially when I am triggered. So I'm going to take off the screen sharing now. So just to recap, we have now seen this visual. When we are in healthy relationship, you and I are in healthy relationship in this moment. I'm a complete individual, you're a complete individual, and we're overlapping in the content of this class. We're sharing heart to heart, mind to mind, spirit to spirit around the content of this class. Now, if you think of a moment, maybe 5 minutes before this class, you were stuck in traffic, or you had an interaction, your child was late for school. When we become triggered inside, in some way, shape, or form, our reaction is typically to protect ourselves, to move into survival mode. That means we either enmesh with them, or we separate and distance ourselves to such a degree from them that our own protection disconnects us from them. And for the remainder of this class today, we're going to be moving into strategies, tools, practices, ways of being that will assist you when you find yourself in the middle of conflict moments to remain anchored and rooted in your own self, to calm your own storm, And today, specifically through learning the language of self-compassion. So let's just take a deep breath. Exhale. I'm going to read a little bit from my book. The chapter that I'm going to be reading from is called The Emotional Messenger System, and I'm going to be reading from page 103. When you dare to meet your own discomfort and then place it in the container of your own self-compassion, you may at first experience an avalanche of intense emotions accompanied by tears. Tears can be so cleansing. Beneath your discomfort, at the heart of your emotion, you will also experience a still, unapologetic, unprotected place that knows unequivocally just how precious you are. It's been waiting there all along. We just typically never connect with it. If you stay the course of your emotions long enough to meet and greet this place within you as it waits in quiet repose for you to come home to yourself, it will begin to transform your life. What I've just described is the journey through our emotional birth canal, as I call it. When we take this journey, it births us into our true identity. Joseph Campbell dubbed this as the hero's journey. Taken one emotional step at a time, it truly feels heroic. Just think about that. You're in a conflict with someone at your office. You're in a conflict with your child. Sometimes the simplest steps of detaching yourself, of reconnecting, of going back, reconnecting with this individual, it feels like a heroic act. The new you that you birth yourself into is now yours, now and forevermore. You can earn it through your willingness to journey through the birth canal of your own consciousness into your deep wisdom that has been waiting for you all along. So learning the language of self-compassion is going to connect you with the language of your own wisdom, of your own inner guidance. And this is what we end up disconnecting from. When we're in conflict with another, we either explode or implode. And both of these reactions disconnect us from our own wisdom, from our own guidance, from our own intuition, from our own highest self and highest intelligence. The spark of true feeling of worthiness, inherent value, real joy, and inspiration are ignited, not by bypassing pain, but by staying with the emotion long enough to receive the message that was seeking our attention in the first place. This assists us to reacquaint ourselves with our original, innocent being that has been waiting patiently to be reunited with us for so long. In this way, receiving the insight actually brings value to our pain. Rather than avoiding pain and conflict with your children or anyone in your world, seek to use the emotion that they stir up to transform you. Allow it to awaken in you your true self. And as you do, you will finally know that in the midst of your deepest pain, you are precious. So I'm going to repeat this. This whole teaching around the language of self-compassion is going to teach you that even in the midst and the moment of your deepest pain, you are precious. Your children will learn from you that in the midst of their own pain, they too are precious. So this is what learning the language of self-compassion is going to connect you with. It's going to connect you with your worthiness, that you are deserving, that you are more than enough, that your life is precious, that you are treasured, that you are cherished. Because the language of compassion, when someone is compassionate to you, think about that. When you are upset and someone offers their compassion, their empathy, a hug, their heart, you feel treasured, you feel cherished. So we're going to be learning to apply that to our own self. I'm going to teach you one very practical phrase of self-compassion. So when children learn to talk, right, we always remember their first words, mommy, daddy, you know. The first phrase of self-compassion that I'd like you to take away today and practice in your life is a simple phrase, it's so understandable. Just sit with that simple phrase, it's so understandable. So go back to the example that you've been using from your own life. Let's just say you were rushed this morning and you ended up raising your voice at your child because they were dawdling and wouldn't get out of the house on time, or they wouldn't wake up on time, and you ended up yelling at them, raising your voice at them. Typically, what we do is then berate ourselves, judge ourselves for the fact that we got upset, for the fact that we were far from perfect, from the fact that we were imperfect. We usually beat ourselves up, have self-judgment, berate ourselves, crucify ourselves. Does this sound familiar? What I'm suggesting instead is you can't change what happens. Let's say you raise your voice at your child, you were impatient, you were furious, you were frustrated. What you can do is simply look at yourself and look at the morning you had. Perhaps you woke up late. Perhaps there was no milk in the fridge when you went to make their oatmeal. Perhaps you need to get to the market and you haven't gotten to the market. Perhaps you're behind on a project you have for work. Perhaps you've been showing up late at work and you're concerned about what your boss may say when you walk in. Perhaps you didn't get a very good night's sleep last night. And so all of this contributed to whatever got triggered in you that would have you impatient. When you can look at yourself and say, so understandable that you raised your voice this morning. This is the voice of compassion. Now let me share with you why individuals can be reluctant to use this phrase. Because in our culture, we confuse compassion with condoning. So we become nervous that if I have compassion for myself, and if I say it's so understandable that I would have raised my voice at my child, we confuse that and we think that is condoning and saying it's okay that I raised my voice at my child. So I want to clarify this. This is very important. By having compassion, we are not condoning. Why do we know this? Because I absolutely guarantee you that not one of you woke up this morning saying, I'm waking up this morning and I intend and I can't wait to yell at my child. Not one of you woke up this morning and says, I can't wait to be late to work just to provoke my boss. Not one of you said, I'm so glad I had a terrible night's sleep so that I'd be cranky today. Our intentions are always innocent. None of us is seeking to intentionally provoke someone else, intentionally explode onto someone else. We are not intending to condone our behavior. So there's a difference between who we are, our being, our essence, and our behavior. Who we are is worthy and perfect and whole and deserving and enough. And we are imperfect in our behaviors. So we're all going to fall short. We're going to raise our voice at our children. We're going to end up late for work. We're going to become frustrated, impatient. It's just happens. I want you to leave today with the awareness, standing tall in this awareness. This is very important, that you choose to hold the belief that self-compassion, and the voice of compassion is not the voice of condoning. Of course, you don't want to yell at your children. The voice of compassion not only doesn't condone the behavior, it soothes the behavior. And when we are soothed, it makes it easier for us to make a different choice next time. Let's just take a moment with that. And again, with the understanding that we're not condoning anything, we're soothing ourselves. Imagine now saying, oh, it's so understandable that you were impatient this morning. Now imagine your own self feeling soothed. When you feel this, you exhale, you expand. There's a spaciousness inside. There's no constriction. When you feel this spaciousness, when you feel this expansiveness and you exhale, it's so understandable. I didn't sleep well last night, or I didn't eat breakfast. My blood sugar was low, whatever it is. When you feel that sense of compassion welling up within your own heart, you feel soothed, you feel connected, you feel better, you feel anchored in your own body. Now imagine that this was a way of life, a way that you practice, and you said this to yourself 100 times a day. Imagine then, let's say you just yelled at your child and hurry up, get in the car, we're going to be late. And then you said to yourself, oh my goodness, I can so understand. It's so understandable that I would have been impatient. And you feel this sense of soothing. The next thing out of your mouth to your child can be the same phrase. My gosh, it's so understandable that you couldn't get out of the door this morning. I heard you say you didn't get a good night's sleep. It's so understandable that you were cranky this morning. You were up until 11 o'clock doing your homework last night. It's so understandable that you didn't want to brush your teeth this morning because you were in the middle of a game. Of course you didn't want to stop your game and go brush your teeth. That's so understandable. When I'm in the middle of reading a great book, I don't want to stop and go wash my face or brush my teeth. It's so understandable. So now I want you to imagine taking that phrase, it's so understandable, and using it when connecting, when communicating, either to your children, a coworker, a friend, your spouse. Let's say your spouse, you've asked 5 times, please, can you do the dishes? And they say yes, but they just don't do them. And you say, oh my gosh, it's so understandable that you never got back around to doing the dishes because you were, busy working on your project and you were helping me in so many other ways. And you ended up, taking out the trash and doing other things. It's so understandable that you forgot. It's so understandable. I know your intention was to be assistful and to help out. So do you see how this phrase can not only soothe you, but will absolutely reconnect you with those around you? So until our class starts, so I'm starting this 4-week class where I'm going to teach you so many of these skills, but until class starts, it's so understandable is one of them that I want you to be using 100 times a day, at least 20 times a day. And I want you to be saying it out loud to yourself and out loud to others. Okay, we're going to move into another practice and skill and tool that I want you to take with you today before class. And we're going to do that by closing our eyes. And I'm going to take you through a guided meditation process. This is a process of learning to fulfill our own needs, learning to identify our needs and learning to fulfill them. Because whenever we are in emotional upset, it's because we had a need that didn't get filled. If I raised my voice at my child this morning, there was some need in me that hadn't gotten fulfilled. And so when we learn to identify and learn how to fulfill our own needs, this is a very compassionate action. So what I just taught you before was a compassionate phrase. Compassionate phrases lead to a feeling in your body of relaxation. A feeling of relaxation and soothing in the body will lead to compassionate actions. So then when you share that phrase with another, or when you learn to fulfill your own needs, as I'm going to be teaching you, these are compassionate actions. So whenever you're ready, if it feels comfortable for you, as long as you're not driving, go ahead and gently close your eyes. You may want to place your hand on your heart as a way of connecting to yourself and reminding yourself that this is your intention, is to connect. Call to mind again a real conflict in your life, a real emotional avalanche, explosion, whatever is real and true for you. First and foremost, practice the phrase, it's so understandable. It's so understandable that you were frustrated, that you were impatient, that you felt abandoned, that you felt betrayed. It's so understandable. Then I simply want you to ask yourself, what need did I have that had not been fulfilled? What need was present that had not been fulfilled? What did I need? Perhaps it was simply breakfast. It was food. Perhaps when you yelled at your child, you felt disrespected. You felt unheard. And perhaps this represents a need that you had as a child, to have felt heard, to have felt respected. And in your childhood, you felt disrespected. You felt unheard, not seen. So then you say to yourself, it's so understandable you would feel disrespected when your children don't listen to you. You felt disrespected your whole life. You felt disrespected in your childhood. You felt unseen, unheard. Well, in your childhood, what did you most need to hear from someone? What might your mother have said to you? What might your father have said to you? What might a teacher or a friend have said to you that would have made such a difference? Perhaps your parents said, "Oh, you're always so sensitive. You're too sensitive." Perhaps what you needed to hear was, "Oh, honey, I love your sensitivity. Your sensitivity is what makes you so able to be such a good friend, be such a good listener, have such an open heart. I just love your sensitivity." Perhaps what you needed to hear when you were a child was, "I'm so sorry. I apologize for the ways I wasn't able to see you or hear you." Maybe a simple apology is what you needed. So just listen for one simple sentence that you longed to hear when you were a child. Perhaps you longed to hear that you are worthy, that you are enough. And now I want you to say that sentence that came to you to yourself. So let's say you just most needed to hear, "It's okay that you're so sensitive, honey. Your sensitivity is your beauty. It makes you a beautiful, precious gem. So then you say to yourself, oh, honey, I love my sensitivity. It's what makes me so able to have such an open heart towards life and others. It's what makes me such a great listener. Whatever it is that's coming through for you, you place your hand on your heart and you say it to yourself. Just give yourself a moment. It's like a beautiful blanket of love, a blanket of a phrase that would have meant so much to you that you are now providing for yourself. Trust me when I tell you, you will appreciate it now. And then whenever you're ready, gently open your eyes. So again, between now and when class begins, I want you to gently, maybe 2-3 times in the midst of a day, close your eyes, ask yourself, what was one thing that I so needed, either in your current life or when you were a child? I promise you, either one will take you to the same thread, to the same core issue. We all have these core needs: to be seen, to feel heard, to feel connected to know that our life matters, to know that we are important, that we are enough, that we matter, that our life is precious, that someone sees us, that someone cares about us. I want you many times during the day, close your eyes, ask yourself, what is something that I needed that I did not receive? What would I have most loved to have heard? And then you say that to yourself. I'm going to give you another assignment. I want to give you plenty because we have a couple of weeks before class starts. So I want to give you plenty of practices. Ask yourself, what did you most need that perhaps you did not receive when you were a child? And write a letter to your child self. I'm so sorry that you didn't receive X, Y, and Z. I'm so sorry that, my mom was so hard on me, had such high expectations, never saw the good in me. I'm so sorry that I felt not enough, alone, lonely. I'm here now. And it is my intention to fulfill now the needs that did not get fulfilled then. I'm on a mission of self-fulfillment. And this is what we're also going to be practicing over the 4 weeks of class. We're going to have a private Facebook page where you all can share at very, very, very deep levels, because we are very familiar with the emotions that come up, but we don't know the practices for each emotion. We don't know what the language feels like and sounds like. So today, I'm giving you a taste. Maya Angelou said that individuals are not going to remember what we said, but everyone will remember how we made them feel. And what is sorely missing in our culture, what we're not taught, is how this feeling, this language of compassion feels when we practice it. We didn't get it modeled to us, so it's not available to reach for so easily. So we're going to spend 4 weeks learning different phrases, different guided practices, different tools like letters, different things that are simple, that you can use throughout your day, that will reach to the core places inside of you that sometimes feel you are not enough, not deserving, not worthy, somehow broken, somehow damaged, somehow never going to succeed, never going to, whatever. We're really going to learn these rich and enriching practices that are going to go right to the core and soothe them in a way that in 4 short weeks, you're going to come out the other side and you are going to have connected to your own worthiness, your own sense of self, your own highest dreams, your own highest self, your own infinite potential, your own divinity. Then, I guarantee you, going back to thinking about the pictures that I showed you at the beginning today, even when you are in conflict, now I've practiced this so much through my day, through the years, that when I feel that emotion rising up, I simultaneously feel this language of compassion that is like a blanket, and it blankets and it connects with, just like in the reading, it connects with this sense of emotion, and it takes me right to my divinity, right to my peace, right to my calm, right to remembering I am worthy, I am deserving. There is more than enough here for me. How can we make this work for everyone? There are infinite ways. So, Joseph is saying, thank you so much. Yes, you can sign up for the 4-week course. You can sign up for the 4-week course. This link, the link below, the link on the side, however it's appearing to you on your screen. And in the meantime, I'm going to create the Facebook page today. So as soon, and some of you have already signed up, so as you're signing up, you don't even have to wait for the class, because in this class, I'm going to answer every one of your challenges. And every one of your challenges will come with a practice of self-compassion and a practice of compassion and connection to those around you. And so you'll learn from each other. You'll be able to learn from whatever question you ask or challenge you bring forward, but also you'll be able to read everyone else's, and you'll be able to read the responses and the practices that I provide for them. And so it's going to be a way to exponentially expand your own growth pattern and your own growing spurt, as I want to call it, growth spurt. So we are here to induce a growth spurt, a transformational spurt, a transformational time. So just to recap, we have these emotional outbursts, emotional explosions, or emotional implosions. This week, and until class, you go straight to the Facebook as soon as you sign up for class, you are going to be practicing. It's so understandable. What need did not get fulfilled when I was a child? How can I provide that need for myself now? You're going to be then extending it's so understandable to those around you. If you do have children, I want you to hear yourself say that out loud to your child and watch their body language. Their body language will relax. When you say to them, it's so understandable that you got a C on that test. You had just been in the midst of rehearsals until, 11 at night. I'm speaking about my son. He didn't actually make a C, but if he did, this is what I'd say. You just watch them, and you watch in your own self the old belief that is going to pop up and say, but am I condoning that grade? It has nothing to do with condoning. It is offering them compassion so that you model to them that they do not create a shame spiral inside of themselves, that they do not create self-judgment, but they create self-compassion so that they learn whatever it is that they are here to learn and can make a different choice next time. So practice this, practice the meeting of your own needs, and lastly, practice writing a letter to yourself or letters to yourself. These are the 4 or 5 practices that I want you to begin until class starts and until we get on the Facebook page. and you can sign up on the link for class. I look forward to having all of you with me. And as you practice these, I would love to hear how it's going for you. So on the Facebook page, write your challenges, write what is working, because what is working can then become inspiration and encouragement for someone else who may be challenged and having a challenging time. So we're all in this together. It's going to be a wonderful community of compassion. So until then, the class will start in 2 Wednesdays, June 7th. And until then, I will meet you on the Facebook page. So thank you all. Thank you all for investing today, for taking away these transformational tools, for signing up. When you sign up, you'll also see, for those of you who did not take my first class, the Emotional Messenger System, the Art and Practice of Emotional Self-Care, that class is going to be also available to you as a self-study class. You can do the 4 classes even before we start this next class, because I'll be referring to some of the material maybe that we covered. I'll also have all of that material available to you all. So much love, everyone. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. And I look forward to seeing you in class. Take care, everyone. See you soon.